Welcome to Hot Off the Press, the show about new releases and the authors that bring them to you. Before we get started, let's go around the room, have everyone introduce themselves, and we'll start with you, AD.
Hi, I'm AD Ellis, and this is my first time on ConTinual, so thank you for having me.
Welcome. Stuart.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stuart Jaffe, best known for the Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries, but I'm here to talk about something else this time.
All right. Gini?
I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series for Daw Books, and I also write under a host of other pen names, one of which is Anita Unsall, and I'm here to talk about a release that's under that name.
All right. And finally, Bobby.
Hi, I'm Bobby Nash. I write all kinds of stuff like these things here. You can tell, like, Stuart, been doing this long enough now. I can get it on the right side. The first few Zoom meetings, it was like, oh wait, wrong. So, but happy to be here and talk about some new books. And AD, welcome to your first continual panel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. I'll start with you, Stuart. Tell us about your new release, where the idea for the book and or series come from.
So I have them here. This is the new release, The Waters of Taladora. This is actually book 2. Book 1, The Waterblade. This is the Midnight Mystery series from Falstaff Books, and book 3 comes out next month. So they're boom, 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 rapid releasing them. The series itself answers the age-old question, what if Agatha Christie wrote Lord of the Rings? So we have an epic fantasy, murder mystery mashed up together. And each book is an individual mystery, and then there's overall epic quest thing going on that covers all 3 books. Where the idea came from. So the idea came from I had John Hartness, the founder and editor-in-chief and all-around guru of Falstaff Books. I've known him for a long time. And when he started the company, we kind of danced around for a while trying to figure out if there was any way we could work together. And when we finally reached a way to do it, I had the job of coming up with something to write. And he told me he wanted something like a mashup like this. So at that time, this is going back several years, my son was moving from California back to North Carolina where we live. And he needed somebody to help him drive across the country. So I flew out there and I figured, great, we got several days. I'm going to be stuck in a car. I can work out this proposal in a few days. And so that's what I did. But as we start driving across the country, pretty much within a few hours of the first day, my son says, hey, I've got an idea for your book. And now I already know this is going to be a stupid joke, okay? And I further already know in my head that it will most likely be a scatological joke, because even though he's in his 20s and I'm much older, since he was a toddler, while we enjoy intellectual humor too, there's nothing like a good poop joke. And sure enough, he says, poop magic. And we laugh and spend about a half hour getting really gross about what that would entail and just joking and being silly. And then my stupid writer brain goes, I wonder, could you possibly do that seriously? And by the end of the trip, I had figured out how to do it seriously. And it got a lot darker. Obviously, it got a lot grimmer. And that was a big part of where it started, was just with this crazy magic system, and then everything grew out of that, which is not the way I normally write, but that was a big I remember when I proposed it to John, I sent him the whole thing, and he said, yeah, this looks good, and I'm like, did you read it? You sure? And then when I wrote it and I sent it to him, the whole, and we wrote, because we knew we were going to rapid release them this year. I wrote them over the course of 2 years previously. So he had the whole thing in front of him, and I had to keep making sure it was working and that it wasn't, because the worst thing that could happen, of course, is somebody reads it and starts laughing. So we made sure that didn't happen, and I think we got a really good, a cool magic system that's a bit creepy. It goes way beyond just poop, obviously, and we don't use that word because that's a silly word. So yeah, that's the crazy story of the at the very beginning of how it all started.
All right, perfect. Gini.
Okay, I am writing in Derelict, which is a new anthology out from Zombies Need Brains, which is one of the small presses that I get the opportunity to write a lot of short stories for. And my short story in this is Saving Sally Ruth, about a myth of a derelict spaceship that might actually be true, and how do you get out of the death ship, basically. The story idea actually goes back quite a ways. One of my first short story sales, writing as Anita Ensall, was in a DAW anthology called Love and Rockets. And I'm a natural novelist, so short stories are a lot harder. And at that point, short stories were a lot harder. And the first short story I turned in was really easy. And the editor's like, oh, I don't want something in universe. And I'm like, it's not. It's now the start of a different, my Martian Alliance Chronicles series. And so the story that I had ready, she didn't want, but she wanted, what else do you have? So I had an idea of putting, what happens when you put the people in the belters, the people that are doing the work in mining when in solar expansion. That's the dirty, grimy, dangerous job. And I was really thinking about the people in that. And so 25 tries later, I finally figured out that my problem wasn't the story, but it was the POV character. And as soon as I switched that, I was able to come up with my short story, Wanted, which is, in my mind, the first story in my Belters universe. I wrote that in 2011, and I have wanted to do more stories in that universe for a decade. And all of a sudden last year, I had a wide variety of anthologies start popping up, and I realized that I could write more stories that are, I never wanted to be following one group. I wanted them loosely connected. And so Saving Sally Ruth is my ghost story for the universe. Wanted was my love story. And I have Showdown on Big Rock 27, which is kind of my settlers versus outlaws. And will the lawmen show up in time to save the day story. That's going to be in Gunfight on Europa Station, which comes out from Bain in November. And Go Where the Heart Takes You, which is sort of a found family story that'll be in the Reinvented Heart from Kasich. So it's exciting for me because I'm getting to do all these stories that I wanted to do for so long, and get them, and they fit so nicely into these various anthologies. So the first one coming out of the new round of my Belter series is Saving Sally Ruth in the Derelict anthology, available now. It just came out last week.
All right, perfect. Bobby.
Yeah, I write a series called Snow, which is an action adventure series. Kind of my love letter to the PI and cop shows of the 70s and 80s that I grew up watching and loving. So I do this series, and last year I got this harebrained idea of, I didn't want to do an anthology per se, but I wanted to invite a few other people to tell stories with characters set in this. So we're doing what we call snow shorts, which are short stories where other writers will come in and just pick a character from the cast and write a story with that character. 10,000 word short stories. We can sell them as 99-cent ebooks. Well, what we do is, after we do 3 of them, we collect them in a paper version, and we collect it as an ebook with the 3 together. I'm going to try to do this. I don't have a cover handy, but I don't know if you guys can see that with the, yeah, maybe too bright, but the first volume of Snow Shorts just went on sale. I don't have a paper copy. It's that new on sale that my comps haven't arrived yet. But the first volume features 3 stories. There is a story featuring Snow, written by me. Snow is our title character, called Snow Flies. All of my stories with Snow have Snow in the title somewhere. So Snow Flies is mine. I did not restrict my other writers to that. So the second story in there is called Thieves Alley, which focuses on Snow's friend, Big John Salmon. It's written by Gary Phillips. So it's a more of a harder, almost noir story about theft and thwarting a heist. A lot of fun there. The third story in the volume is called Stranger Calls by Nicole Givens Kurtz, who wrote the first story featuring Snow's mother. So she actually introduces her mother in a story. And so we realize we discover that solving these type of thriller mystery problems runs in the family. And so we're putting out volume 1 now. It's available in paperback and ebook at Amazon and the various places. There's an audiobook that's currently in production, so that'll be out soon. Narrated by Stuart Jaffe, who does the Snow series. So the people that are reading the book, the ongoing series, can pick this up, and it still feels the same because it's got the same cover artist and it's just the same narrator. So they're a lot of fun. But we're trying to release a short every month. We've missed a couple, but almost every month. So right now, in August, the 6th short should come out. So probably in September, we'll have volume 2 of Snow Shorts with 4, 5, and 6. So
Perfect. AD.
Okay, so like you said, I don't have paper copies of this one yet. It just came out yesterday, and I'm waiting on the paperbacks. It actually stemmed from last month's release. And you would think after all this time of doing Zoom during this last 2 years, I'd remember to get things turned around so you could see it the right way, but I forgot. So this is the first book of that series, and I write LGBT romance. So this one came about, it's an age gap, marriage of convenience. The characters end up getting married just to be able to buy this coffee shop. And it's supposed to be just for a year until the very eccentric owner who sells it to them lets them buy the contract. So it's just going to be for a year. Well, then obviously it's a romance. Things go from faking it to, oh my gosh, we've fallen in love. And it's got a great cast of characters. So this was going to be just a standalone. But then readers liked it so much. And you know how when you start thinking like, oh, you know what, maybe I could have something else. So then the one that released yesterday, it's set in the same location, and like you still get to see the crazy cast of characters. Plus there's a new character introduced. He's this 80-year-old grandpa, and he's absolutely hilarious. I used a lot of stories from my own grandparents and asked people for like the funniest stories they could remember of their grandparents and peppered them throughout. So readers are still asking if I'm going to continue, but I think I'm stopping at 2 for this one. This one that released yesterday is actually the first time I've written for a while where it wasn't an age gap or younger, sorry, I almost said students, teacher, younger characters. These characters are both in their 40s, and I've had a lot of readers saying they like reading about older people, not old people, but older. So.
All right, perfect. So my next question, and I'll start with you, Ginny, is what's something about being a published author that surprises you?
Fan support surprised me a lot at the start, which it's great. Okay, I love my fans, but I was not actually prepared to have fans when my first book came out. And so a friend of mine said, how did you expect to be successful? I said, oh, I expected readers. I just never expected anyone to tell me they liked it. So that remains a lovely, every time someone tells me how much they love something I've written, it remains a lovely surprise. I've never gotten to like, oh yeah, so what? It's always like, somebody loved my book, right? So that was a surprise. The other surprise was when I started, I honestly never thought I would be late. And right now I'm heading into George R.R. Martin territory without George's money. So for those watching, yes, I know you were hoping it was going to be book 17 I was talking about, but I am still working on the rewrite of Aliens Like Us, which is 4 years late and is coming, I swear. So that was a surprise, being late and then being like snowballing the late to where I feel like, will I ever not be late again? So those are the two, the good and the bad.
All right.
I feel your pain.
My God, man, it's awful. So
How about you, Bobby?
I will echo the fan thing. I am still stunned when people come up and say, I read this, or will start asking questions about one of my books. It's still, I don't know, it still seems odd to me, and but very cool, So, but also I didn't expect that I would meet so many people. Being a writer has allowed me to travel, to meet and make real like friends, make connections that go beyond just the fact that because I'm a writer. Especially doing things like conventions, we've met so many people through conventions or travel and all this, where you kind of grow this, this community of friends that all comes back to that writing. And I did not expect that when I started, but I absolutely love it. It's wonderful to know how many people are a part of my almost daily life because of being a writer. So,
AD, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree with what has already been said. I was at a author signing event this weekend. It was the first one that we've had for a while, and just the fact that people come, like they even wanted to pre-order from me, and this one person, she ordered every book I've had out since 2019 because she didn't get to see me. So I mean, she had like 18 books that she had to pack home. I was like, oh my gosh, people wanted to buy my books. So that part, I mean, that not only did it surprise me, it's kind of like every time it happens, like they wanted a picture with, why did they want a picture with me? And then the friends, I've got a couple friends who I probably met 6 years ago, and I talk to them on a daily basis. They're not writer friends, but again, writer friends that I would never have met had I not been doing this. So that has been, I guess that part's not surprising, but just enjoyable. Also, I think it surprises me how, I think this is my 34th book. I'd have to count, but somewhere around there. And like the amount of work to publish doesn't ever get easier. Every time, I mean, I've got my process and I know what to do, but every single book, oh yeah, this hasn't gotten any easier, and still just the nerves of, oh, it's release day, and then watching your numbers and watching those reviews, and why hasn't Amazon put my reviews up yet? So I would have thought that it would have gotten easier, but it hasn't.
All right, perfect. Stuart.
Well, everybody's had such good answers. I mean, obviously, I think I agree with everybody here. So I'll go a different route. Well, one of the things I think that surprised me would be the stranger experiences or opportunities that have come my way from doing this. So, especially with the Max Porter series, because in that series I take real history and of the North Carolina area I live in, and I mix it with witches, ghosts, curses, and magic. So I end up going to real places and seeing things, and you end up meeting people, and you discover pretty quickly that when you say you're a writer, we think of ourselves as, I'm just this guy trying to make little stories. But you forget that the people think that's really cool. And so suddenly I'm like, I had one story that was going to take place in the fire station, and I happened to meet on an airplane the one of the fire chiefs in the area. And he's like, oh, he thought it was really cool. He's like, yeah, call me whenever you want. I'll give you a private tour and all. And I'm like, and I didn't call him for like a year, and I kind of forgot about it, and because I didn't really take it seriously. But when I started writing the story about fire station, I'm like, I gotta call this guy. So I call him. I'm like, I don't think you remember me. He's like, oh, I remember you, And I come there, and and then when I went there, they showed me all around, and then I sat down in the kitchen, which is the central, everybody's there, and there were like 2 or 3 firefighters who were on just hanging out on duty, waiting for something to happen, and they sat down, and once they figured out I was writing fiction, because they were real like tight-lipped, until they realized I wasn't a reporter and I'm asking questions so I get my stuff right for a book for fiction. The floodgates opened, and they were so happy to. They were telling me stuff about their personal lives. I'm like, really, you really shouldn't be saying all this. They just couldn't stop themselves, and it was really exciting. And I've had other strange, really cool things happen like that, just because I'm a writer. So it's a lot of fun.
All right, perfect.
Mhm.
So Bobby, I'll start with you with this one. What do you do, or what did you do, depending, to research for this book? If you didn't have to research for the book, what do you normally do?
In terms of this, the short story I wrote for this collection, I didn't do a lot of research, but well, actually, I take that back. I did research the planes that they're using, because it's about him. His friend gets caught up in as a pilot who gets caught up in smuggling, and so he's trying to stall it. So I did investigate what kind of planes would be perfect for smuggling, the stuff that I have them smuggle. But yeah, little things like that. Like there's a lot of times, and those are usually things that take the longest to research, are the little things. I need to learn something about small airplanes. That's 2 days I wasted on, or not wasted, but 2 days I delved into, airplanes. And when I probably could have just wrote they were in an airplane, and my readers are like, that'd be good. So, but yeah, it's research is fun. And I agree exactly with what Stuart said, getting to talk to people. People love to tell you what they do. I had a very similar experience the day I spent with the FBI. He's like, we're going to go up here. Don't tell them you're a writer, because all they'll hear is reporter. He says, just, tell them you're just visiting. I'm like, whatever. But you get really cool stories, and people love to tell you about the cool things about their job. And so, yeah, so going out, anytime I can do hands-on research, go out and talk to people, go to them, hear their stories straight. You get a lot of good, not only information, but you get good character bits, because you see how they relate that story, how they act about when talking about that story. And so stuff like that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Adi, you did mention that you talked to people about, the grandparents. What else did you do research-wise? Did you research a specific city for this setting?
No, I try to keep things fairly what I know. So I grew up in a small town, so I do write a lot of small town stories. 2 of my series, they're related series. They're set in Indianapolis, is right where I'm from, and I have done some other cities or just fictional cities. When I did something set in New York, I was constantly asking my friend, okay, if they were going here, what street would they be on, and what would they see? Because I've never been to New York, so I don't know. This book they just released yesterday, one of the characters is demisexual, so I had to do some research on that, talk to some people about, how would that play out in this relationship. For the first one of the series, in the coffee shop and tea, so researched all kinds of different ways because I'm not a coffee drinker. So I was just like, I'm sure there's lots of different coffees and ways to make it. So I researched that. I've talked to friend's dad about, okay, if he's working on this motorcycle and he hears a bad sound, like what's it going to sound like and what would it mean? And so he tells me all like, oh, well, if he heard this, it would mean this. So I like to try to make sure that even if it's not something I know very well, like you said, it'd probably be fine if, oh, the motorcycle made a bad noise, but I want to make it right. So, and just, Army friends, firefighter friends, and just asking them so that I can make sure it's as accurate as possible.
All right, perfect. Stuart, other than talking to people?
Well, for the Midnight Mystery books that I'm releasing now, that takes place in its own world. So there's no, I don't have a place to go and no real people to talk to. But each book is a complete mystery, but I also made them different types. So the first book is a classic murder mystery. The second book is, I would say, if you've heard of a locked room mystery, this is a locked castle mystery. And then the third one is more of like a police procedural with monsters. So while I'm very comfortable with writing paranormal mysteries and that kind of thing, I really needed to break down how each one of those styles actually works. And because I also had to layer it with a full epic fantasy book one, it's really a trilogy. So I had to think about how book one, book two, and book three of an epic fantasy trilogy work, and how I'm going to connect that with a murder mystery so that the climaxes work at the same time and everything comes to a head at the same time and all that. So the research was a lot of fun because it was reading lots of mysteries, watching lots of mysteries, but it's also one of those things. I mean, this is true at any time, any job you have. Once you get in the weeds of it, you as a reader, as a writer, I know how the sausage is made. So, reading, it's very hard to not, no matter how much of a pleasure a book is, I'll still be like, that sentence could be better, or that, and I see the other authors laughing because that's what we do this. And so now when you really get down and break down how like a locked room mystery, which I had never written one before, so I really had to look at all the pieces of how you make that work when you've limited the space. And while my space was bigger than one room, it was a castle, it was still very limiting. And when you have the whole book take place there, how do you get around that? How does Agatha Christie, I read a ton of her work and looking at how she handled things like that. I mean, she, Murder on the Orient Express is basically a locked room mystery, but it's a locked train. That kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun, but that was a big part of the research I had to do for the series.
All right, and Gene.
I write soft science fiction, which means I need to know everything about astrophysics because it's in space. And I have 7 pen names. I write in every genre, but no matter what I do, 75% of what I write comes out as science fiction. I'm not even trying. I'll start a story and suddenly it's like, yeah, that's science fiction. So I have 2 areas that I have to do a tremendous amount of research in. One, obviously, everything to do with space and the physics of space. And I choose what I'm going to ignore. Okay. I don't care that we don't have warp capability. We do if I want us to. And I'm not going to describe it because I don't care. And I think it's a boring explanation that slows down the story. But I still have to know how I made it work. So I've lost count of the number of pages of our galaxy and the stars and how far away this star is from this one and all of this other stuff. How fast do comets go? Had to learn that one for one of the stories. I mean, it's just all this stuff. But then in the Alien series, in addition to all of that, I also have to know about certain things, locations. And my favorites were in book 7, Alien in the House. I had to learn about all kinds of poisons, various ways you could kill somebody. And then in book 8, which is immediately after book 7, I was drilled down on Guantanamo Bay in Google Maps view for 6 straight months while also researching how to make bombs. So I enjoy being on the NSA watch list. I'm certain, I'm really hoping that they buy my books to see how I'm utilizing all this intelligence I've got. So I'm either trying to destroy things or take them out to space. So I do a lot of research, but it's just like Bobby said, it's the little things that just, they slow you down, but they can be great. For book 2, Alien Tango, it's part of it's set at the Kennedy Space Center, where I have never been. And so I've seen it in movies, and I did a tremendous amount of research, and I really spent a lot of time on their site. And I discovered they have an alligator preserve that they're quite fond of. And that registered, and I moved on. And then later, all of a sudden, there are gators in this story, and they're named, and they're recurring characters, not every book, but Kitty, my main character, loves the gators and mentions them quite frequently. They're a fan favorite. Just like the Loki gator is a fan favorite. Yeah, my fans love the gators. So I would never have come up with that if not for the research I was doing on something else. But at the same time, like Bobby said, there's 2 days gone. Wow, I know a lot about the Kennedy Space Center, and I wrote a paragraph, right? So, but at the same time, if you don't, I think one of the reasons that we all need that is because what we write becomes authentic that way. Even if we don't put in but maybe a sentence of what we got, we know we're right, or we know that we have made the here's how I'm making these leaps. And I think it just informs our writing with more authority and more believability. So I don't think research is wasted, and we all love it, but yeah, it can really slow you down.
Well, I think too, if we believe it, the reader will believe it.
Yes, I agree.
And that, yeah.
All right. Perfect. So AD, is there some part of this process with this book that took you out of your comfort zone?
In a roundabout way, writing about someone as a demisexual, because that was something that I hadn't written before. So I wanted to make sure I got that right. That took me out of my comfort zone. I don't know. On this book in particular, I don't think so. I have written one fantasy romance. That took me way out of my comfort zone. You guys are talking about all your research on space and all this stuff. I get so bogged down in, like, I could never write a vampire because do they sparkle? Do they do this? Because you read all these different vampire stories and they all do something different. And I'm afraid I'm gonna break a vampire rule or something. So writing my fantasy romance, it was probably one of the most enjoyable books that I've written, because I did end up creating this whole world and this whole species of humans, and it ended up being really fun, but it took me out of my comfort zone desperately.
Stuart.
I'm never in the comfort zone. No, I mean, I joking, but not entirely. I every book I write, I always try to make sure there's something that's a new challenge. And especially when you have a series like the Max Porter's next, I'm just about to start doing research for the next one of those, and that'll be the 15th book in the series. So obviously writing them in general is not much of a challenge. I know how to write a Max Porter book and all that, but so I'm always looking for something that's gonna make it new for me. So it's not, I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm just writing another book. And so whether it's, it could be anything from point of view to subject matter to anything. So in the Midnight Mysteries, obviously, I've talked about it a lot already, but just trying to take two genres that are actually don't go together in the way they work mechanically, and making them work was a real exciting challenge. So, and I mean, for example, we all know as writers, we're all taught, especially in fantasy and science fiction, not to info dump, right? especially not to do it like it was done by Asimov and all them, where basically they throw a reporter in there who's just going to ask the questions so they can be answered. That, it's been done, and it's been done well. It's been done bad. Don't do it. However, in a mystery, right, it's okay. It's expected. You're going to do an interrogation. You're going to ask questions. You're going to get answers, and that's a big part of the book. So you've got these two genres that are like clashing in the way in the tropes that they accept. And that was an exciting challenge for me. I think that's one of the first things when John suggested the mashup, that really appealed to me, was that challenge.
Okay. Jay?
I'm kind of the opposite of Stuart in some ways. My comfort zone is as wide as the sky. Really, nothing throws me, nothing surprises me. If it surprises me, I'm like, I was surprised. And then it registers as that's a thing now, and I just move on. So nothing really throws me. So I never feel like I don't have any right to write something. I do feel like there's areas where I choose not to, or areas where I don't think I have enough experience or experience I want to get to write. But I don't find any story that I'm writing uncomfortable. I can find them difficult, like that one I was telling you, 25 tries. That wasn't a comfort zone. That was finding the right POV and realizing, as a still quite baby author, that, oh no, it's your POV that's wrong. Aha, now your story just wrote itself. So I don't struggle with a comfort zone. I am struggling in terms of, I had no struggles writing Saving Sally Ruth. It was easy. I have been, same with Showdown on Big Rock 27, same on Go With Heart That Takes You. I have been longing to write stories in this universe for a decade. I was just so happy to get to do them that it was really good. And it's really helpful because I am struggling with book 17. And some of that is, like Stuart said, how do you keep making it new and fresh? Well, I've got it new and fresh, but I don't think I've made it good enough yet to be worthy to follow book 16. And until that's there and my editor agrees, we're not, it's not going to be done. And so that's been a struggle. So it was great to get to write something that I was so happy with, because it helps to go back and go, aha, I fixed that in these short stories. I can fix this here, and so forth. So comfortable, I guess the thing that is completely out of my comfort zone is being late. I come out of marketing, and the worst sin is late. You want to underpromise and overdeliver. And I feel like I have overpromised and underdelivered, and that is just like the mortal sin. And so that for me is where I'm not in my comfort zone. Being late is totally outside my comfort zone, and I've been late for 4 years, so I've been extremely uncomfortable that way. Writing, awesome. Lateness, bad. So that's mine.
All right, Bobby.
Most terrifying thing I've ever done was let somebody play with my toys.
Yeah, you're a brave man.
Because it was, on the one hand, I decided I would be smart. I went with people I knew who kind of write the same kind of stuff. So I started there and want to try something. So my first bit was being excited when they said, yeah, I'll do that. And then, so you're excited. Oh, good. They're going to write this story. Then you get the story, and before you read it, you're terrified because what if they don't, it's no good, or worse yet, what if they write my characters better than I do? And so, thankfully, all the stories are good. I love what everybody's turned in, but getting over that initial fear of just, I'm letting my toys out of my grip and letting someone else do something. And it was just, it was terrifying. But thankfully though, I'm not as terrified now that I've received 4 so far from other writers, and it's not so bad. I don't freak out as much now when they come in. Now I say that, watch the next one I'll get. I'll be all shaky again. But it took a while for me to, after the idea hit me, to pull the trigger and ask the first person, because it really, I've written other people's stuff. I've worked on anthologies with other people's characters, and I know, what we as writers like to do. It's like, how can I take this character in a new direction? And so that was the big one for me.
All right, perfect. Well, that'll do it for today. Before we leave, though, let's go around again. Have everyone tell us where they can find you, or where we can find you on the internet. And I'll start with you, Stuart.
StuartJaffe.com, and of course Amazon. The new series is from Falstaff Books. It's called The Red Knight Mysteries, and book 3 is up for pre-order too. That'll be out next month. So,
All right, Jenny.
www.ginnykoch.com. I'm also on Facebook, where I'm there as Gini Koch, Gini Koch Hairspray and Rock and Roll, and author Gini Koch. And the author Gini Koch I had to claim, so I didn't make that one. I didn't want 2 fan pages, but I got them. I'm on Twitter at Gini Koch, no space. I'm on Pinterest, Gini Koch, and I'm somewhere else, but I can't remember. But you can find all the links to everything on my website, and I am on Facebook far more than is probably good for me, so I'm very easily found there.
All right, Bobby.
BobbyNash.com is my website. There's links to everything else there. The Snow series does have its own site. It's abrahamsnow.com. And I'm all over Facebook, author Bobby Nash, Twitter at Bobby Nash, and Instagram, Bobby Nash Writes. So I'm pretty easy to find.
All right, and finally, Adi.
So adellisauthor.com. I think all my social media is just Ellis author. I'm on TikTok, which is a time suck if you've ever been on it, but I'm over there. And all my books are on Amazon in KU, except for 6 that I've just now taken out. I'm going to take wide after recovering and all that good stuff.
All right. Again, I want to thank all of you for coming in and all of you for watching. So we'll see you next time. Bye.